Good evening. Welcome to the Earl Morgan Hour. This is your host,
Blog
Earl
Talk
Morgan.
Radio.
I gotta wait for that intro to go. I always forget that. Good evening. This is the Earl Morgan Hour with your host, Earl Morgan, here at GoPro Radio Network in Jersey City. We have a really great show for you tonight. We've had some issues with the crime problems on our streets in Jersey City, and we have our top cops here to talk about some of that, what we can do about it, what their reaction to it will be, and what they plan. I know they plan to do something. I know that they must have said, look, we can't have this. Let me go back and figure something out. So we'll be talking about that. I also have something about a guest we had not too long ago, Clarence Matthews, who we're going to be talking about his second novella on the rites of passage for Jacob's Rites of Passage, his book, which I am really fascinated with. This whole set. There are three of them, and they remind me, in a sense, of my first readings of Huckleberry Finn, which I read when I was about 9 or 10 years old, I guess. And the thing that always stuck with me about Mark Twain, that I understand now even better than I did then, was how Mark Twain as an adult could reach back and remember what life was like as an adolescent. Because as we get older, we just forget those things. He remembered smells and issues and things that would happen to him and his friends, that were Tom Sawyer, who was his friend, that were very interesting. And I'm finding that Clarence Matthews has replicated some of that in his books. You'll also have to forgive me because I'm still fighting this cold, which is as stubborn as this nasty weather we're having here. You know, the whole East Coast almost is in an Arctic lock from with ice. I mean, people down in Atlanta, Georgia, skidding around and spending 7 hours in their cars. Nobody has snow tires down there because they don't get snow. So, without further ado, I'm waiting for a new addition to the GoPro Radio Network family, and Mark Ryncarz to call in. While we're waiting for that, let me give you some more information. You can reach us at Facebook. You can like us on Facebook at the Earl Morgan Hour. On Twitter, you can like us on Twitter at Earl Morgan Hour, and you can call into the show if you have any questions at 714-888-7444. And if you'd like to, we'd really love to have you donate if you can, if you could find it in your heart to do so, to the GoPro Radio Network .com. You can find us online, and all donations are very, very much appreciated. In the meantime, let me talk a bit about our book notes while we're waiting for Mr. Ryncarz to come on. This is the book that I'm talking about for the audience. This is Teen Jacob, which is the second book in the Rite of Passage trilogy. And in this book, the first book that we did when that we discussed when Clarence Matthews, the author, was here, was the life of Jacob as a child, as a baby, growing up into his adolescent years. And the thing that was so interesting, the time period for this book is between the Second World War and the Korean conflict, they call it the Korean conflict. I think both of us are old enough to remember that it looked like an all full-scale war to us, but they called it the Korean police action, I believe. But it's all about how this young man grew up and how he was able to navigate his years and how the adults affected it and how they all chipped in to contribute something to his development. And in this book, he's now in high school and he's finding ways to make money, to get jobs. He's a pretty resourceful young man, but he has, like all of us, he falls into traps and ruts. His brother, who was his mentor, went away in the army. He joined the army, and Jacob fell in with a bad crowd. Again, his marks began to slip in school. And his father decided, look here, if you're not going to go and do the right thing in school, we're going to send you back to the farm for a year, and you can go work there, and then you come back and try it again, which is what he did, and he seems to be doing well. But all kinds of things happened to Jacob that happened to all of us younger people. As we read the book, we can remember how you begin to relate to girls, what happens, your friends, how you relate to them, how you deal with adults, and in issues that come up in life, like incest comes into the book, where he stumbles across a situation where one of his friends, a young lady, a young girl, is being molested by her stepfather. And these are the kinds of things that you say, yeah, well, I remember something like that happening. But he weaves it into a story about Jacob and his life that is so interesting, and how these things prepare you to go into adulthood little by little. At least one of the interesting things about Jacob's rite of passage, is he had time to grow up. He went from being a child to an adolescent to a man. What seems to be happening a lot today is the kids aren't, that time limit, that span doesn't happen anymore. They go from being young kids to almost adults in their teens. They're out there on their own very early. And I know in my household that, and I come from a family of 7, which you can't even have a family of 7 anymore. Where would you put them? I mean, a friend of mine talked about what they call architectural birth control. Where would you live today with a family of 7? Nobody's building, apartments, for people of that larger family. But we were all more or less able to grow up at a smooth and steady pace. We weren't rich people. We were poor. By any stretch of the imagination, we didn't have any money. But we were taught certain kinds of things that stuck with us. The community was there to help raise us. A lot of that has just gone away. And I believe that the 2 gentlemen sitting across from me tonight will have something to say about some of that, because they see the direct result of those things missing on our streets. And I'm sure there must be some hellified conversations going on in police headquarters about stuff like this, when they're trying to figure out what can we do. I'm sorry, this cold is just wreaking havoc with me tonight. You won't mind if I have a drink of water? But we intend to have Clarence Matthews back on to talk about just these things that I'm talking about in Teen Jacob's life, along with some other guests who will discuss the whole rite of passage issue and how we can reconstitute at least some of that so that kids have a chance to get through it. All right, we have now on the line Mark Ryncarz, R-I-N-C-A-Z, who is we're going to introduce him to life here at GoPro Radio, and we'll be talking to him. He's an entrepreneur, and he's the author of a book called Metabolic Loophole. And I think we'd let Mr. Ryncarz explain it himself. Thank you, Mr. Ryncarz, for calling in. And could you give us a little of your background and what the book is all about?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me.
You're quite welcome.
And the book is really about. It starts off about my journey with weight loss. I have a common story a lot of people face every day, which is I was in shape as I was an athlete, and as I got out of college and I got into the quote unquote real world and real stresses and things like that, I put my fast, and I quickly ballooned to well over 300. And from there, I fought the weight gain demon, as I call it, where I'd lose some weight, I'd gain it, lose some weight, I'd gain it back, and most times when I was losing weight, I was absolutely miserable. It was great to be around because I just was, on a diet and cutting calories. And I just really kind of, had hit a point where I felt like kind of hit rock bottom because I was so overweight and afraid for myself and my family and my health. And so I went to what I know how to do best, which is research, and I started stumbling upon just some solid research that actually came out of one of our top medical schools that discuss exactly metabolism really works internally, and specifically how you can continue the foods you love while losing weight. And when I read about it, I thought it was an absolute breakthrough because for me, and I'm similar to everyone else out there, the hardest part for me on a diet was deprivation. You can make it so long, only so long with depriving yourself, and then you crack. And then when I finally did crack, it took me a lot to kind of get back on my diet. And that's where the whole weight loss and weight gain
you're talking
came
about
from.
That whole binge thing. Listen, Mr. Ryncarz, I've been there where everybody else has been. I've done that. Lost 10 pounds, gained 15. Lost 12, gained 7 back. I know exactly what you're talking about. Let me ask you this. If people are interested in getting the book, how will they be able to, how can they order it?
So right now, our publisher is Square Watching out of New York.
Could you
however,
repeat
right
that
now
again,
it's only
please?
available from loophole.com. It's pre-available there, meaning they can buy it now from that web, and then it'll be in bookstores in the middle of the year.
Okay, I would like to tell everyone in our audience out here in GoPro Radio Land that if they order the book now and they say GoPro 7, which is a code, they can get a discount, a $10 discount on the book. Let me say this, I tried several different diets. They all worked kind of well for the time that they worked, but somehow, somewhere along the line, you sag. I'm sorry, I should say that's a 10% discount. I was misinformed before. A 10% discount on the book. How much does the book cost, incidentally?
It's a hardcover edition, and the book is $29.99.
Okay, thank you. How much do you weigh now?
I am about 218 right now.
218.
I'm a competitive power lifter. I don't look like the same person. If you saw, I'm very muscular. I look like, if you saw my two pictures side by side, which are on the site, it's one of the keys that I write about, and one of the things I've learned how to maintain muscle while you're losing weight. Because think of it. At the end of the day, no matter what the scale says, we all want to look good and feel good, look good at the beach, right? I mean, that's really what we're trying to go on a diet for. We have this idea of what we think in our head. And unfortunately, without being able to maintain lean muscle mass, you can't ever get the way you want to look. Because even when I was kind of crash dieting before I discovered my program, I would lose lots of weight, but I would lose all the wrong areas. So I was losing water, I was losing muscle, I was losing structural fat, which is not the fat goes, it's the fat internally. And I just didn't even look healthy, even when I was losing weight. So one of the, what I've laid out in the book really talks about how to reset your metabolism and how to target those areas that are so difficult to lose fat from. And when you follow kind of this metabolic reset, you'll be able to burn those fat stores first. I mean, we've seen some just unbelievable transformations where people have looked like they've lost 30, 40 pounds and they only lost 10, but it's because they lost the fat from all the right areas. So, but then once you get into it, the key is I show you in the book how you can continue the foods on a daily basis that you like without gaining the weight back and continuing on your goals. Because just like you said before, A lot of people can stick on a diet for a month, 2 months, 6 months, but at some point they crack because they've had enough. And with this program, which is so simple to follow, you don't have to crack, because every day you can, if you have a birthday dinner, if you have a job party, you can eat the food you want. And I show you exactly how to do it without affecting.
Well, let me say again. Could you give the name of the website again, please?
Sure, it's themetabolicloophole.com.
Okay, and if you order the book, you can get and say GoPro 7. That's our code. You can get a discount from the price of the book. Just one more time, Mr. Ryncarz, would you give the name of the website again? We can't do this enough.
Yes, sir. Absolutely not. We want to get it out there.
Right.
themetabolicloophole.com, and you're right. GoPro 7. They can type that in ocean code line, as well as if they happen to see it on TV, because we are running an interview wide. And they say, when they call in the number that's on the screen, if they say GoPro 7, we will also give them a discount then as well.
All right, thank you. And it is actually a $10 discount. I was right. I stand corrected again. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ryncarz. We have to go to a break now, and stay tuned, please.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
To bring you a great opportunity. If you have a product or a service, a talent or something important to say, now's your chance to have your very own radio show. Whether you're just starting out, a veteran looking for a professional platform to enhance your presentation, the GoPro Radio Network is the premier place to cultivate and share new and exciting content. We'll help you to grow your audience and keep it growing long after your first broadcast. Now you have a voice. Call 212-696-8562 today, or visit www.goproradio.com, and you'll be amazed at how easy and affordable it is to have your very own show on the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
All right, we're back, and we have some callers on the line. Let's take our first call, please. Who is this on the line? Nine 714. Oh, it's a 917 area code. 917 area code. All right. We have a caller from the 917 area code. Would you come on the line, please, and talk to the audience? All right, then we'll go to the 678 389 678 640 2283 9678 area code. Would that caller please come on the line? If they're there.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, then we'll we're here. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm sorry. I really didn't have a question. I just dialed in to listen. I apologize.
Oh, well, fine.
But it's very interesting what Mr. Ryncarz had to say. So it's nice to know that you can get away with eating what you'd like every once in a while and still lose some weight. So I can't wait to order the book.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the ice cream diet. But thanks for calling in, and thank you very, very much for listening. And if you find it in your heart, it would be nice if you could donate to GoPro Radio Network. Thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any other listeners on the line? All right, then let's go to Right Jab. All right. Tonight's Right Jab will be my sort of a rant against pertaining to something that the President of the United States said last night about the minimum wage. Now, having been around a while, I've worked on minimum wage jobs, and I worked for places with unions, and I worked for places without unions. And let me tell you, you need a union, man. I once worked for a newspaper here in Hudson County called the Dispatch. I'm sure that one of my guests here will remember that paper fondly. I got my first daily news job there, and I am very grateful to those people that hired me. In one sense, they taught me the business, but they paid me nothing to learn it. And they worked us till we literally dropped. And then when we got to the top of the wage scale, they just cut us loose. I was lucky, though. I got to the top of the wage scale, and I had made such an impression on the Jersey Journal by that time. They said, come on over here with us. So that's how I got to the Jersey Journal, which was a union paper. And it was like paradise. I made more money. I actually got home before 10 o'clock at night. I would work from 9 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. We worked so hard at the Dispatch. I remember nights leaving the paper and reporters wandering around trying to remember where they'd parked their cars. It's been so long since they had been outside. And we had the newspaper guild, which is still there at the Jersey Journal, struggling to maintain itself in the really, really distressed area of the newspaper business today. And I know all the arguments about the wickedness of unions. I covered them. I covered the police union. I saw all the games that get played when they're negotiating contracts with teachers. But let me ask you this question. As much as we complain about all of that and how these people are making all this money, when you think about it, when was the last time you saw a teacher go out and put a down payment on a yacht? They're not making that kind of money. Now, today it's even worse. When I was a kid, you went to college, you could work your way through and get yourself a job and then go to work as a teacher. But even when I began to work, when I began to go to school, I had a history teacher, really good history teacher, who was my milkman because he wasn't making enough money as a teacher. And eventually, the Jersey City teachers formed a union. Well, why did they do that? Because they had to make money. In that same period of time, I went to work, as both these gentlemen will probably remember, as a temp at the post office in my senior year. And, you know, I'm in the main post office in Jersey City where I got transferred down on Washington Street. And there were 3 Jersey City teachers sitting there sorting mail. Why? They weren't making enough money as teachers. So they went and formed a union to get better wages. Now, there can be a situation where the tail wags the dog. No doubt about that. I have seen that happen. But it isn't as if these people are making all of this money. Not only that, but if you're going to ask someone to do the job of teaching, and I've had teachers, I don't know what they paid them, but it wasn't enough. It simply wasn't. Whatever they got, boy, it just wasn't enough. Now, yes, I've had some teachers that weren't that good, but the ones I've had, they should have been paid well. And I know some cops who have done one heck of a job, and some that don't. But you have to pay people in order to be able to work. It's just the same thing goes for anything else. And the unions help build this country. If it wasn't for unions, Henry Ford, once he broke the sacred code with the industrial barons and decreased the cost of his automobiles so that his workers could buy them. Now, they were all mad at him. He said, well, look, if I'm going to make these cars, I got to be able to buy them. I mean, he wasn't making Learjets, he was making cars, and it made sense. Of course, after that, everybody else had to, do what he did and make the price of a car reasonable enough so that everyone could buy them. Thank goodness. Now we all have cars. He was the one that did that. So, yes, unions can be a problem, but they built America. It was those unions, steel workers unions, automobile workers unions that made this country what it is, that made it possible for guys to go to work, make enough money to feed their families, and to give their kids a good education. Because believe me, that's what happened. The same thing with the police unions. They went to the police. First of all, we got unions and we got civil service, so that we got some parity in how promotions got made. Because boy, there was some really strange things that went on back in the old days. Whereas someone once mentioned to me Frank Hague's basement promotions, where you could be a sergeant one day and a lieutenant the next, or a patrol officer one day and a lieutenant the next. Now you have to know something to get that kind of rank. And yes, I think policemen ought to be paid, and everyone ought to be paid. I mean, it's a tough job. If you're out there where guys are shooting, you don't want to do that for nothing. That's a tough job. And in a day like today, can you imagine if you were a firefighter out there? I've been out there with firefighters in 10 degrees with a 30-mile-an-hour wind. I have been on those. I remember the first time I met the current fire director for our town, Armando Roman, at a fire where it was so cold, he was up in a gondola pouring water on a burning building, and the thing froze. The gondola froze. They couldn't get him down. That's how cold it was. You're going to go out there and do that. You need to get paid. So I think that we have to understand that a minimum wage, at least a minimum, is important. And people should be paid a living wage. No one should go to work and then have to go on food stamps. Because what we're doing in that case is subsidizing some corporation that has plenty of money. Often, these corporations have lots and lots of money. Sometimes they have more money than countries, and they can pay a little bit more. This is just, to me, a matter of greed. I remember they were talking about one of the pizza manufacturers who was so upset about the idea of a minimum wage. He was talking about how he was going to raise the price of his pizzas because of a minimum wage. And this guy was living on an island with a moat and a golf course, but he couldn't pay a minimum wage. You know, that's just a little. Come on, you know, let's let everybody live. So that's my rant for the day. I think that we need to live and let live. We've got an upward spike of people with money. They are making money like crazy. 85 families own most of the wealth on the planet. That makes no sense, and we won't straighten out what's going on in the streets where gun battles are taking place until we can give people a living wage and a decent job. That's all people really want. We've got to find a way. Somehow, the struggle is to get back to those days when we did that. And we did it. It wasn't that it's impossible. We did that. I remember that well. I was one of those people who got a decent job. Boy, did that make a difference. We're coming up on a break now. And after we do the break, we're going to go into our spin the bottle. We're going to go to our guest, the hot seat. And on the hot seat tonight, we have some very august gentlemen who will be talking about some issues involving crime on the streets. The police director of Jersey City and the police chief of Jersey City. These guys, they're sitting across from me right now, and they look serious as a heart attack. So I think we're going to have quite a discussion here. We're going to go to break, and we'll be back.
You want to know the truth, folks? Do you really want to know the truth? Well, perhaps you can't handle the truth. But if you can listen to GoPro Radio. Tune in at www.goproradio.com. Now, have I made myself clear?
GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head. I know I do.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
All right, we're back with our guest. Introduce yourselves, please, Chief.
Chief Robert Cowan,
Jersey City Police
Jersey
Department.
City Police Department, 34 years.
And
Jim Shea, I'm the Public Safety Director for Jersey City.
well, let me say this about these two gentlemen, Mr. Shea and Mr. Cowan. They're both lifelong cops. They've been on this job for a long time, but both of them are new in their positions. Both were appointed to their positions by our new mayor, Steve Fulop, recently. And they came on, the thing about being a cop, I got to say this, is you never know when you get up in the morning it can't be dull and boring work, because you never know what's going to happen by the time the day is over. It could be a good day and nothing happens. It could be a day like we had a couple of weeks ago where 5 people are shot within the course of 2 or 3 days. And when you have a case of that happening, it turns your whole world upside down in the police department. Because now you have to find these guys, you have to worry about the community's involvement and concern with it, and you're tasked with the job of figuring out what to do. Now, in the black community where some of these crimes where most of these crimes seem to be committed these days, in Jersey City that would be what they call the West District and the South District, the West being one of the most busiest precincts in the state of New Jersey. There's a lot of guns out there. I mean, a lot of guns out there. And police have to deal with that problem. We're getting gangs coming up. We're getting families falling apart. Drugs are rampant. And all of this stuff has to be done. I'm thinking of the good old days when we didn't have all of these issues at once hitting us. So I wanted to talk some tonight about what happened a couple of weeks ago when we had a series of shootings in the West District. And it caused the neighborhoods in that area the Jersey Journal wrote a story about it, and it talked to some of the people who lived, the neighbors who were there, who were upset about the whole thing. We had a 17-year-old guy shot in the leg, I believe, followed by a 19-year-old who was shot in a drive-by, and then there was somebody else shot by accident with a stray bullet, which is always a problem. So I want you guys to talk a little bit about what you're going to do about that, about how you can handle it. What is your response to that?
If I can say this, definitely it's objectionable. The individual who was shot in the hip, and it's an ongoing dispute. What happened was an individual that we locked up in August, if you remember the July spate of shootings.
Yes.
Our ceasefire unit that was actually Mayor Fulop had sent me out to study it. We formed it under the direction of Public Safety Director Shea, and they arrested this guy. I mean, we were getting killed with the shootings in July, just when the mayor had taken over, and he got out of jail. Okay, and then the shooting started. It's tough to say, but it was like a feud. Okay, you had one side shooting at the other side, and that's what predominantly the 5 shootings we have. Actually, we had 6 shootings. 5 of them were all related. What I could say we've done, again, not one size doesn't fit all in Jersey City. Like you said, we get up, everything's going good. The next day, it hits the fan. Okay, so when we were tracking it, we were having our ceasefire unit doing any investigations till we found out the pattern, where these shootings were coming from. Okay, I was directed by Director Shea to formulate a plan, okay, in order to address these shootings, which I did. Okay, we flooded the area with street crime units, our ceasefire unit working with them, and also dedicated patrol units just to go and hit the corners and come up with the bad people on the corners, differentiating against the good people that are going to the store. Okay, we've been doing that for the last week. Right, so we've made 8 significant arrests. Okay, with those 8 arrests, we've worked very closely with the county prosecutor's office. Prosecutor Gregory has been very good.
Guy Gregory,
yeah. And his first assistant, Gene Rubino. I get on the phone, we get a real bad guy, and I don't want to go into names. I don't think that's important.
That's not necessary.
We get a real bad guy. I call him up. I say, Gene, listen, we have them. They tossed the gun out the window. They took ownership of the gun. They were dealing drugs in the apartment. We need high bails. We've gotten bails of $175,000 cash, $100,000 cash bond, 2 no bails, and we've recovered 2 firearms. I feel confident to say that at least what we experienced in the past 2 weeks, that we've got those shooters off the street, and I expect things to quiet down, but we do have manpower out there on top of it.
Well, one of the things that in my older age, because I've got a long stretch here and a lot of experience with the police, some good, some bad, but I'm finding that I remember once a situation like you just described happened when I lived on Orient Avenue between King Drive and Bergen. And these guys were terrorizing Orient Avenue. And the police came one night. I know something happened and they arrested them. And people applauded. There's this thing that we have to get out of the way. That somehow the police are just the bad guys. First of all, they say people in my community, well, the police are doing nothing. Somebody must be doing something. The jails are bulging at the seams. They don't go to jail unless they get arrested. They get arrested by cops. So they must be doing something. Rahway State Prison has no room. Neither does Trenton State Prison. So somebody put those guys away. And the other thing is that one night I saw something happen. This was just the night Chris Christie was reelected. On the corner of Astor Place and Crescent, do you remember there was some shooting on Harrison Avenue, I believe it was? Bang, 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 bang,
Yes.
bang. Mm-hmm. I was standing on the corner of Astor Place talking to a couple of committee people, and we heard the shots. A few seconds, it couldn't have been more than 20 seconds later, a patrol car comes around the corner. No siren, but lights. The officer stops. He looks over and he says, "Hey, how you guys doing? How's everything going?" He knew we were talking about the election and everything. We said, "Everything's fine, officer." He said, "Did you hear any shots any place?" I said, "Yeah, right down the street." He said, "Thanks a lot. Have a good night. I hope everything keeps on going all right for you guys." It was a very short, brief exchange between us and the cop, but it was valuable. It let us know he knew we were not the bad guys. He was decent. It doesn't take a lot to be courteous and to understand. He let us know, I'm here for you. And, somebody's shooting down the street, I need to know who it is so somebody doesn't get hurt. That doesn't take a lot. But sometimes that gets lost. So let me ask you this, director, and we have to understand the director's position is new. We used to just have a chief. Now we have a director and a chief. Or we did have a chief and a director years ago, but we're back to having a director again. Director, how do you see the long range strategy here to try to deal with this? Because there's only so much cops can do. Crime is not a police problem, it's really a social problem. But how much and how do you see yourself being able to cut into this, if at all? I mean, you're new here, but crime is crime, whether it's New York, Newark, New Jersey, or wherever.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Crime is crime. And I think in your comments, you touched on a lot of the issues that we have to address during any type of long-term strategy. For instance, you touched on community police mistrust. You touched on police needing to engage the community, but not just police it, to engage it, to be a part of it. That's part of what attracted me to this job. Mayor Fulop interviewed me for it. I was a deputy chief, as you know, over in the NYPD, and I was very happy. Had a pretty good career going, working with youth and gangs. And he asked me to come out and talk to him. And he talked about Jersey City and what a wonderful city it was. But he said it's right now in danger of becoming 2 cities. Half the city which shares this renaissance that's coming, and half that's being left behind and not getting its fair share of what's happening. And he said we need to fix that. And he said, I've identified that the most important thing we need to do to fix that is to get some breathing room by handling the crime problem that's plaguing that half of the city, the South and the West. So he said, we need to do that. Excellent police force, excellent leadership in the police force. We need them to do their job to police the city and give room for a long-term strategy. And then he talked about a long-term strategy involving education, involving recreation for youth, recreation opportunities, involving job creation, involving prisoner reentry and services for prisoner reentry to allow people who've done their time and served their sentence and are coming out to re-enter society as a productive member of society. And he talked about how none of this will happen if we can't get a handle on the crime that's happening. And we faced our first challenge, as Chief Cowan said, immediately when we had we immediately had that spate of shootings in the summer.
Well, let me interrupt you for a second. We have a caller on the line on a 646 area code. Caller, are you there?
Yes. My name is Phil, and I just know that the Super Bowl is huge in Jersey City, since a lot of the players are in hotels in Jersey City. I just want to know how much resources, budget-wise, versus the security for poorer areas, all year round, with all the money that's being spent and securing the players, transportation and all that. Like, how much dollar-wise is being spent on that versus the year-round budget in, let's say, some of the more poorer communities in Jersey City?
All right, we'll turn that question over to the Chief Cowan.
So what I'd like to say about that is that the Super Bowl certainly brings an excitement to the city. It's good for the city. So there are resources. I can't give you a dollar figure right now, but I can tell you this, that since July 1, when Mayor Fulop took over, we have taken resources. We pretty much look in our patches now. This is the Jersey City Police Department. If I have stuff going on in the South and the West District, I have no problem pulling resources from the North and the East, and I've done so many times. So we're one city, and we take the resources from other areas of the city to where the crime is. We don't just keep a motion like we have a minimum car plan and everybody's staying in the North District, but the North District, if it's not getting calls, we're going to move those cars out where they're needed.
Yes, Director.
I'd just like to add to what the Chief said. That's a great question, and of course a lot of people are concerned about resources being pulled out of their areas. But in reality, because of the 5 shootings that Mr. Morgan mentioned before, we've actually put more resources into the South and West during the time for the Super Bowl than we had in there prior. So it involves a lot of management. It involves a lot of good work by some of our police officers. And the call is right. It involves resource dedication and spending money sometimes. But the city's able to handle it, and we're excited about the Super Bowl being here. And one of Mayor Fulop's initial things in all the meetings about the Super Bowl is always that we're all glad it's here, but it will not negatively impact our residents and businesses and the people who live and work in Jersey City on a day-to-day basis.
And Chief, if I can build on what the director says, once we realized that we had these shootings all connected, we actually have a whole lot more resources committed down into the South and the West District. We're not even close to what we have now down in downtown with the teams. And we are putting them there because of the concern of what's going on down there. And like I said, I believe that we have it under, at least the present problem, under control, and we're there. Not to say that something else can't arise.
Yes, caller?
Yes. And then thank you, gentlemen, for that. I'm so excited that we have new blood here in Jersey City. I just want to get one last question in, if I can, about just their attitudes on stop and frisk, and then I'll hang up and provide room for other callers.
You knew that was
coming.
coming.
The answer. Yes.
Thank you very much, caller. Director, since you come from New York, where stop and frisk was or used to be.
I'll start with that one. The right of a police officer, or the requirement of a police officer, to stop someone and question them about their activity is in the it's in the Supreme Court decisions in the Constitution, if they have reasonable suspicion that a crime is occurring. And no reasonable person would expect a police officer not to do that. That's what we pay them to do. If they see someone running out of a bank, I'll use an extreme example, with a mask on, you would expect them to stop them, and a gun, you'd expect them to stop them and ask them. And maybe if they are in fear then for themselves or other people, to frisk that person. You can't allow that, though, that tactic, that ability, you can't allow it to become a policy that targets anybody. It has to be an individual decision by the police officer doing his job out in the street as he or she sees fit, properly supervised and properly trained. And I think in Jersey City, I'm very excited at the quality of the police officers I deal with every day, and that problem has never been here, and I don't expect it to be here. The police officers do use their right to stop and question someone, and if necessary, frisk them if they're legally sufficient. But there is no policy, and I think that's reflected in the numbers and the lack of complaints about it.
Yeah, we never had a stop and frisk sort of a policy here, but you know, it's kind of funny because as a young guy in Jersey City, I remember getting stopped all the time, and I wasn't a bad kid at all. But, of course, now at my age, the only reason a cop would stop me is ask me if I needed some help getting across the street. But the things changed. That went away. I mean, the department is not the department it was when I was 15. It has changed with the times. It has changed its complexion. And I want to get into that too, because we have some new officers coming on, and some very exciting things with these new officers coming on, so that we can police the city adequately. But the stop and frisk question is always asked, and I always have to tell people we don't do that here, so that's not an issue for us. The issue for us is we got too many guns out here. What do you gentlemen think we can do, or is there anything we can do about the situation with all the firearms in the hands of people who are willing to use them the way they are?
Well, I mean, I think that's more of a question for national or state policies beyond the scope of what we do.
You're just grunts down there in the
grunts. We have to deal with the effects of it, so we're going to keep dealing with it. We're going to attack it through our street crime units, through the intelligence-based policing. We have a very good major case squad looking for guns. I mean, recently, I think the director, remember, you were actually involved. You went to New York City. We had somebody coming in with 9 guns from North Carolina. Okay, this was several months back. And we got him. The director was running around in New York City with some of our people. And then they took a bus back, and they came to, by the way, you guys didn't get him in New York. He came back, took a bus, and they got him on Arlington Avenue, trying to come in with...
Arlington Avenue?
Yes, I believe there was 9 guns we had
it's
information
around the corner
on.
from my house.
That's right. And we got him with 5 guns. So it's that type of policing that we're going to continue. But in terms of a policy, that's going to come from the national level and the state.
Let me ask you this. You're the director. You have to think of it on a more strategic level. And I'm sure you've been laying in bed nights sometime thinking, what the heck are we going to do about this? Because the guns are everywhere. And I don't know a cop I've talked to yet that thinks this is a good thing. The last gentleman in your position, I once wrote a story. I couldn't reach him to get a comment, but I said, I don't think I need a comment from him because I don't think I could print it anyway, about his feelings about all the guns on the street. Not against guns, but against the numbers of them that are out that are illegal in the hands of people who have no business having them. What can we do? I know it's a national policy, but what is the police on a national level? Because I know you guys have got to be involved in the organizations of police chiefs and police directors. What is the policy? What do they say about this?
Well, you're right. Illegal guns is a national problem, and you see a wide variety of opinions among various police on it. Here in Jersey City, we basically deal with the reality that we're not just a city of 250 to 300,000 people. We're part of an urban area of 14 million.
A region.
Yeah. And we address the end result of the problem, as Chief Cowan said. And I do think about it a lot. So does he. We have many meetings with it. And basically, our strategy is going to remain that illegal guns is one of the biggest problems facing any urban area, including ours. that they're going to draw the resources. Chief Cowan mentioned a few of the units that he has whose job is pretty much just to remove illegal guns from our street, and that we're going to work with our partners. We're not going to pass it off to other people and say there's nothing we can do about it. We're going to work with our partners, especially the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office, to ensure that anyone with an illegal gun in Jersey City we treat it with the utmost seriousness. And he gave a few examples before of some of the arrests that his people have made recently, that he immediately is on the phone to our partners at the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office, and they're getting a higher bail, and the judge is being made aware that this is not just an arrest, this is an arrest with an illegal firearm or connected to an illegal firearm. And the judges, too, are taking it very seriously. So while it is a national problem, we feel like on a local level, we have a strategy to deal with it. Now, dealing with it and solving it, of course, are two very different things, but we are never going to just kind of surrender to it. We're going to keep using Chief Cowan's resources and the prosecutor to make sure. And he's created a unit that he doesn't take credit for often. He keeps giving it to everyone else. But this ceasefire unit, he went out and researched, but that was a direct result of Chief Cowan saying, how do we handle shootings and gun violence? And if he doesn't mind, I'd like him to just talk about it for a minute, because he should be very proud of what he's accomplished with that.
So the ceasefire unit, we started in, I want to say July, we started looking at it. We sent myself, Deputy Chief Zaki from our Investigations Division, and Captain Sabo went out to look at the
it's a name
unit.
I haven't heard in a while.
There you go. We went to look at it in Patterson. We met with their leaders there, the ceasefire people, and they invited us to send officers down there. We sent Detective Keith Armstrong, Lieutenant Nicky Skirbo. They went down there. They rode around. They did a night with the guys in Patterson. They came back. They left us reports. So we tailored it to Jersey City. They were a day squad. We're a night squad when the shootings are happening. Okay, there was a little resistance. They didn't want it. I says, listen. So, we threw in a little bit of a plum here to get them working. So they're working 8 to 4, 8 o'clock at night to 4 in the morning, which is outside union shifts. Okay, the shifts go, are specific hours. So you have to be creative.
Tours, as we call them.
But these guys, we took the very best detectives in Jersey City, and not a knock on anybody else, but these guys are good. Okay, and we put them together, and it has a community-based component where they speak to leaders in the community, try and be open for information. They have really, really good street resources, and really key to it is that they interact with the cops that are on patrol, the guys on the first line also. Okay, and these guys are good, and they enjoy. Up until December, from when they were put in August 7th was their initiation date. They enjoy a 53% solve rate, with a solve rate for shootings over New Jersey is about 18 to 23%. Okay, so they're dedicated. It's costing us money, but the mayor's behind it. They come out on all non-fatal shootings and all shootings where there's shots fired, nobody hit, if we think it's some type gang-related.
I just want to say a word about that, because I've always been a little miffed at the fact that we would take a shooting where no one was killed and treat it a little differently than a murder.
Right.
The fact of the matter is, a guy pulls a gun and shoots somebody, he intends to kill him.
It's bad aim or good medical care.
Yeah, whatever. So it's just as serious.
Right.
We're almost to the end of the program, but I wanted to mention the fact that you recently swore in 34 new police officers in Jersey City. And we have some officers who are non-traditional in terms of their ethnic background. Could you give us a little information about that?
I'll let Chief Cowan answer that. He oversaw the background investigations, and again, we're very proud of what the department's accomplishing.
I couldn't give you all their ethnic backgrounds. I didn't come prepared for that. So I could just tell you that we have a very mixed bag with what we got. I think it's going to be a reflection of the community. I think I read somewhere we have the most, for a mid-sized city, diverse population in the entire United States.
Chief, I believe there's some Martians running around here. We just haven't identified them.
Right, and if there is a Martian, we are going to get a representative on a police department.
I think a good example of how diverse this class is. There's 34 members, and they speak 10 foreign languages fluently.
Right. All right, we're at the end of our program. Gentlemen, you have been excellent guests. We're going to have to come and do this again, really, seriously. Maybe so many months will go by and we'll do a police report, because this is important in the community and the people we serve at GoPro Radio. Thank you very much, and good night.
Thanks for having us, Earl.
Thank you for having us, Earl. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.